Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Founders Podcast. We're in episode 6 today. And with me is our co founder, Michael Nicosia. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Makes it easy for us, doesn't it? Today, we were going to talk about one of the things that is maybe most critical or core to any business, and it's solving customer problems. Every business that started that's successful solves at least a problem, if not multiple problems. And if you could go back to like when you first started the company, what was it like? What was it that you were uncovering or showing or talking to customers about in terms of the problems that we were helping them with?
Yeah, it's a great question, Michael, and thanks for having me. I think, when we first started Salt Security, obviously there was not a lot of mention or talk about API security. The simple fact that we thought that APIs was a massive threat vector, a lot of organizations were blind to. So at the time, what we needed to do is we really needed to showcase why our solution was important. And we had to do it normally through proof of values, POVs that we conducted with prospects to prove to them that not only was the attack surface so huge, but they were blind to that attack surface. And the simple fact that their current solutions, whether it be an API gateway or API management tool or a WAF or second generation WAF, could not solve these type of attacks, these sophisticated attacks. So I can go back specifically into one of our customers in the travel industry where we actually did a POV through one of their mobile apps, and we actually found that we could expose sensitive data like credit card information, financial information,
Wow.
customers' names and so on, out in the open, so that we can prove to them that, look, these potential incidents can happen and are happening, and you could easily be breached, and think about the impact associated with that.
Yeah.
So I think early on, it was all about creating or showcasing that potential attack surface exposure to them, and the fact that their current solutions could not catch those.
You made me think of a couple of things in that. One of them is, what was their reaction, right? When you showed them, here's the actual written customer name. It's not like obfuscated at all. It's like, what did they do?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. And one of the reactions, and I wish I could share with you the name and the company, was immediately, wow, that
Yeah.
is crazy. Not only was it crazy, he literally, his next statement was, I'm going to speak to our CFO right now to get this approved. So
Wow.
it was that kind of reaction where they knew, wow, this was like super critical, and they had to stop it immediately.
Yeah.
So, and there's a variety of different opportunities that kind of led to that in the early stages of Salt
So
Security.
I'd imagine, given that we're several years into this market now, right? So the early ones were, like you said, they didn't know, and you had to sort of show them. Feels like we're a little bit past that now. So is the discussion now, has it, I don't know, evolved at all to the problem? Like, is it they understand it and now we're looking for other things, maybe how I manage it or whatever, or how has that conversation changed?
Yeah, I think what's important now, if you speak to most CISOs, is they understand APIs and the potential landscape associated with that blind spot that they have.
Right.
So I think it's less educating them on, hey, this is a big problem, and more on how they prioritize this within their organization. And what we've started to see is that the priority of API security and having an API security solution for these organizations, being travel industry, manufacturing, financial services, you name it, it's ubiquitous across all of the verticals that we talk to, is this is a top three priority project for us to have to adhere to. So that's what we're seeing now in today's discussions.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And it seems like it's probably even getting worse. And that there's something that always interests me with APIs is that you use them to create an improved customer experience, right? The
Mhm.
origin or the intent behind them is always, how can I better help my customer, or if it's a partner or an employee or whatever. But unlike a laptop, for example, that you need to protect, you don't see APIs, right? You don't see them, and
Right.
so you have to like bring it to life and make sure that people know like what the issue is. Have you seen anything maybe on how do you make this easier for people? We've gone past like there's a problem, and
Mhm.
then they understand it and they're prioritizing it. I know we've talked with Roy on this, our other co-founder, about the journey from discovery to governance and then threat protection. Anything that you're doing along those, either any of those three, to make it easy for people.
Yeah, I think the explosion of creating applications, which has gotten a lot easier and a lot
Uh,
faster to be able to do, is one element. When you add microservices within organizations, that's kind of exploding. When you add the fact that AI is exploding, you've got a lot of AI driven code that's being released without anybody's,
yeah,
even looking at that. So I think all of these elements create even a larger impact associated with CISOs thinking, wow, there's a lot of things that are happening within my organization that are API driven. And even if they don't say the word API, they understand that what 75, 80% of APIs make up an application. And the fact that if you look at AI microservices, those are all API driven. I think they're starting to understand that those explosions within their organization that they continue to leverage becomes even a greater threat for them to increase that attack surface.
yeah, yeah. I agree. In fact, I heard another stat similar to the one that you had mentioned, which was the amount of traffic on someone's network, either internal to it or going in and out of it, can be up to 70%
Mhm,
API traffic, which is
mhm,
crazy. And again, you don't see it. So you think, well, it's not obvious you have to protect it, but in
mhm.
all of those APIs is really data that you're trying to protect. And one of the things that Roy mentioned before was the policy hub and how we make it easy for people. And that maybe you could talk for just a minute about policy hub we created on the governance side of the product.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is because if you think about API security, I mean, it's still somewhat new. There's still a lot of organizations or individuals that are not as informed. So, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create as many tools as possible for CISOs and the like to understand these posture gaps or understand how to create the security of these APIs on a more standard approach so that they didn't have to figure it out themselves. And that's really what the posture governance is all about. And the policy hub was kind of driven to that, is to showcase what good looks like in specific verticals and all of the verticals, but specific to like whether it's financial services or travel industry or and the like, to create that best in class for organizations without them having to build it on their own.
Yeah, so you could learn from other people in the space that have done it, and then make it easy. It's just like everyone's very familiar with the App Store, right? And it's the same
Exactly.
happens to be a
Same
policy,
concept.
right? You click on it
Yeah.
and you download it, and there you go. Okay, so we're going to end on that today. Michael, thank you again for being on our Founders Podcast. And for everyone else, we do these every 2 weeks. So please continue to check back in. We're on YouTube, and we will be here every other week with a new episode with our co founders. Thank you, everyone.